Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And in child privacy news, we've got to talk about the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, because they're trying to turn that up to 11. I think that's a really good thing. And if you're a longtime listener, follower of mine, maybe listen to my radio show, whatever it is, you know I have been talking about just the weaknesses we have in actually protecting kids online. And I think that is a huge thing. It's a shared responsibility. It's not just the parents educating, because a lot of parents don't know any of this stuff too, but the platforms also have to provide those kinds of things for kids, and now we're finally going to see some of this come to fruition. Now the FTC, and here's what's going on, they're proposing huge changes to basically that decades-old law that regulates how online companies can track and advertise to children. Now, what we're talking about is COPPA, or COPA, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Now, that requires kid-oriented apps and websites, including social media, to get parents' consent before collecting personal information on children under the age of 13. COPPA was enacted in 1998, it went online in 2000, and the last time that it was ever updated was like 10 years ago, and obviously the world of tech has advanced well beyond then. Now, here are some of the changes that FTC is proposing to strengthen that rule, and I'm a big fan, and here's what's going on. First things first is opting in for targeted ads. Apps, games, and websites like Facebook, for example, used by children would be required to obtain, quote, separate verifiable parental consent, end quote, to disclose information about kids under the age of 13 to third-party advertisers unless the disclosure is quote-unquote integral to the nature of the online service. And they won't be able to deny access to basically those games, apps, or websites just because parents do not agree to have their kids' information disclosed. That's possible today, for the record. You can be denied if they're saying, hey, we want your consent to share information. You say no, the site stops working. Now that won't be allowed because, quite frankly, they don't have a right to collect that kind of information. Now, the next one is limiting on basically like the push notifications for kids that really keep them online. That's the addictive side of this. Now, these platforms would be prohibited from using online contact information and quote-unquote persistent identifiers such as cookies that track a child's activity online to send them push notifications, basically to encourage them to use their service more. We've all seen that. You play a game, you stop playing for 5 hours a day, maybe you get busy. Next thing you know, you're getting a notification from the game that says, hey, something reset or double bonus points or whatever it is. That's part of the addictive side of this. It keeps people playing in those ecosystems so they can be advertised to or buy things or whatever it is. Now, on top of this, they're actually adding, and this is the next thing, limits on education technology, or ed tech. The FTC is proposing codifying its current guidance related to the use of education technology to prohibit commercial use of children's information, along other safeguards as well. Now, the proposed rule would allow schools and school districts to allow educational technology providers to collect, use, and disclose students' personal information, but, and it's a big but, only for a school-authorized educational purpose and not for any commercial use. And so they can't turn around and sell it to data brokers, which is another revenue stream for ed tech. And so I think that's a huge thing as well, because again, we're talking about basically protecting those that are minors. And remember, when you're 13 years old, you can't legally sign a binding contract. You got to be 18 to do that. So with that, the other thing they're proposing is data retention rules. Now, the proposed rules would only allow companies to keep personal information for, quote, as long as necessary to fulfill the specific purpose for which it was collected, end quote. They would basically prohibit these platforms from using retained information for any secondary purpose, such as selling it, and from retaining the information indefinitely. I stop playing the game after a certain amount of time, my data gets destroyed if I'm a kid. Now, the rule would also require operators to establish a written public data retention policy for children's personal information. You're going to see that added to a whole bunch of privacy policies out there. Now, the other thing that I would mention, and it really wasn't in the FTC, is that we should be raising the limit of the age of the use of social media. Longitudinal studies, and I've talked about this, again, if you're a longtime listener and follower, you know this, that studies have shown that the most well-adjusted kids are those that adopt social media at age 19 or older. Now, some states are taking that upon themselves. I think the FTC should do that. But those are the proposed rules right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think this is a step in the right direction, as quite frankly, we are data mined to the ends of the earth, and I think we need these protections even for adults. Love to hear your thoughts. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.